Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you greetings from Malawi, a small country in southern Africa, also known as the warm heart of Africa. And I thank the organizers of this conference for offering us an opportunity to share perspectives on the subject of national branding, tourism, and international development. My understanding of this subject is that it is, among other things, about how nations might seek to improve their image abroad with a view to attracting tourists. And a question that comes to mind then is, why would a country be bothered about attracting visitors at all? Although the answer might be obvious, it may be useful to point out that in traditional Malawi, visitors were valued for other reasons in addition to any sort of material gain that they might bring. Villages in traditional Malawi would go to great pains to make themselves attractive to visitors because it was considered a profound honor to be visited. Even within the village, individual homes would compete with each other to see who attracted the most visitors in terms of the human warmth and friendliness that was resident in that particular home. In this context, I suppose this is one way in which tourism might be said to contribute to peace and understanding between, in this case, villages, but also between nations, since belligerent states or villages would not have much of a chance of attracting visitors. Now, of course, today we have perhaps more urgent motives for wanting to be visited. Tourism has come to be recognized as an essential component of both economic development and poverty reduction in all countries, more especially in developing countries such as Malawi. And given its importance, tourism can no longer be relegated to a secondary position in policy development. It is, I think, very important to point out from the outset that despite appearances, tourism can sometimes be a rather fickle and unreliable tool for development because of its demand instability. The high level of dependence on tourism is not one that I would really advise based on our experience in Africa. We all know from experience how any kind of monoculture is risky, especially in developing countries. Therefore, in Malawi, we prefer to see tourism as a source of diversification, helping to stabilize and boost our economy by complementing traditional sectors rather than completely replacing them. There is often talk in Malawi about how tourism might perhaps someday replace tobacco as a source of forex, because at the moment we're having great challenges in this particular sector. But I'm not terribly optimistic about how that might happen overnight. Nevertheless, for many developing countries, tourism is a significant vehicle for economic progress that creates jobs, foreign exchange, and tax revenues, all of which contribute in one way or another to improving people's lives. The visitor has become a crucial player in the well-being of the village, and the beautification of the village to attract more outsiders has become a serious matter of survival. The fact that the whole world has gathered here in Berlin is testimony to the fact that tourism has become one of the world's fastest growing industries, having already more or less overtaken agriculture in the world's largest industry, and employing more than 10% of the global workforce, according to recent studies. The World Bank identifies three main pathways through which tourism affects poverty First are tourism's direct effects, the wages and earnings of those who participate directly in the sector as workers or entrepreneurs. Studies have also shown that tourism is a more labor-intensive activity than other non-agricultural sectors. It also uses a relatively high proportion of unskilled or semi-skilled labor. Secondly, indirect effects occur through the tourism value chain. Tourism draws on inputs from the food and beverage, construction, transportation, furniture, and many other sectors. And finally, tourism affects the livelihood strategies of local households, the business climate for small enterprise development, patterns of growth of the local or national economy, and the infrastructure or natural resource base of the destination. Through the consumption of local products in tourist accommodation and through visitor expenditures outside that accommodation, tourism can indeed act as a catalyst for the development of small business in production and service sectors, increase the demand for handcrafts, generate linkages to agriculture, fisheries, food processing, and light manufacturing, such as the garment industry. And of course, tourism can also create linkages to the ever so popular informal sector. Branding, and I use this term branding knowing how much it has these days become almost a cliche, so overused has it been, referring as it does to the use of various facets of a product in order to show how different it is. This is especially so in these times when potential travelers are bombarded with a deluge of information about epidemics, terrorism, and all sorts of negative occurrences that shape the way people think about other countries as potential destinations for visits or for investment. Unforeseen circumstances are encouraging countries to move in the direction of being better prepared with a strong brand image which can enable them to withstand adversities of external circumstances and remain attractive to tourists. Again, to use the image of the Malawian village, if your house is next to a neighbor who is in the habit of beating up his wife or his children, then you want to spread the word to all and sundry that no such thing happens in your household. And of course, African countries find themselves needing to brand and rebrand themselves to counter negative stereotypes that have their origins in colonialism. For instance, because Europeans were once in the dark about the continent of Africa, some Europeans came up with the notion that Africa was the dark continent. And of course, to this day, we are still struggling to combat that negative stereotype, which is perhaps not very surprising because even in this, our host country, Germany, they sometimes still have to counter stereotypes resulting from events in the recent past, particularly with reference to the Second World War. The current trend today is to market the unique selling proposition of a destination with emphasis placed on rebranding and the creation of innovative marketing campaigns to keep a destination ahead of others. Just being a good village is not enough. The largest drum must be found, and the village drummer must climb to the top of the tallest anthill in the village and beat not only his loudest, but also differently from the neighbors, so that the whole world may hear and hopefully come flocking to this wonderful village. National branding then has a bearing on the way our prospective countries are perceived at international level in terms of tourism, investment, and trade potential. The world over, developments in technology and globalization mean that we are competing at cutthroat speed with one another on investment opportunities, trade, tourism, and talent, among others. Countries have become products whose identities and values must be designed, packaged, and marketed. As I indicated at the beginning, my country, Malawi, is known as the warm heart of Africa. This, by the way, is the tagline that was produced not by ourselves, but by outsiders, visitors who came to Malawi and came to the conclusion that there was something very unique and different in the way Malawians received visitors, in the manner that I attempted to describe at the beginning. The Malawi brand, which was conceptualized in the late 1970s, was born out of a number of unique selling propositions, which include, and I'll just mention two here, the truly unique friendliness and warmth of our people. Our people are the most important asset, as they're the warmest and most welcoming in the whole wide world, I tell you. Remember, we consider it an honor to receive visitors. Lake Malawi and its rich biodiversity and rivers. Lake Malawi is the world's 11th largest freshwater lake, and it has a unique marine park with over 1,000 tropical species of fish found nowhere else in the world. In order to enhance the Malawi tourism brand, we have developed and redeveloped our logo from the old red heart to a new and livelier one, which has red, blue, green, gold color to depict the many attributes of the brand. But the nature of tourism is such that a rebranding of one's country may not be enough. Visitors to Africa usually target places that are located in different countries as one package. That is why regional cooperation is vital. Tourists and potential investors would, we believe, be happy to see regions as well as states engaging in the branding or rebranding exercise. With this in mind, in Malawi, we are considering an idea to develop what we will call a sustainable tourism marketing platform, STMP, that would act as a hub for sustainable tourism activities in 3 countries in southeastern Africa. In fact, expanding an already existing transfrontier cooperation between these 3 countries. We envisage a project centered in Malawi, which would include nearby tourist attractions, such as the Luangwa Valley in Zambia, one of the most remarkable places on earth, and the incredible Manda Wilderness in Mozambique. In fact, the project would have the look of the traditional villages coming together instead of competing with each other and beating one giant drum on the anthill to tout what our 3 beautiful countries jointly have to offer. It is our hope that serious foreign investors and our international cooperating partners would find such a project particularly attractive, as it includes the confidence-inspiring scenario of countries working together for the common good, as well as an example of South-South cooperation. We often think of cooperation in terms of South-North, North-South, but we're coming to realize now that in the South, we can also learn from each other, both within the continent, but also across continents within the region of the South. The Lake Malawi ecoregion is not only an area of tremendous tourist potential, but has also been designated by the World Wide Fund for Nature, WWF, as one of its 200 global ecoregions for conservation. This ecoregion includes Lake Malawi National Park, which was designated as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 1984. It is our view, ladies and gentlemen, that the future sustainable development of Malawi and her neighbors has more potential neither in mineral extraction nor industry, but in the region's natural beauty offerings. In the Lake Malawi ecoregion, there are, as I've already indicated, unique fish species, and within it, many national parks and forests. However, the current pressures of poverty, deforestation, and an increasing population are a constant threat to these natural resources. Coupled with the potential for growth potential of the tourism sector, our idea of a sustainable tourism marketing platform would, we believe, offer great potential for alleviating poverty and protecting natural resources. Experience from this initiative would also have replication implications within the region and perhaps even beyond. Key activities in this initiative would include the assessments of tourism industry and also priorities for targeting sustainability efforts, capacity building workshops for the tourism companies and key implicated stakeholders, and the development of regional sustainable tourism products. Much as it is generally a positive force, tourism can also have adverse effects, we must admit, such as the environmental impacts linked with construction and maintenance of roads, airports, and tourism facilities. Ill-managed tourism can lead to soil erosion, increased air, soil, and water pollution, habitat loss, and increased pressure on endangered species and indigenous cultures. The strain that tourism often brings can also lead to conflicts between tourist-related and local development. But sustainably sustained developed tourism of the sort that we are envisaging in this initiative has the potential to contribute towards economic development, environmental protection, and poverty reduction. Environmental impacts can be sustainably managed, and the natural capital of the destination can be preserved, thus ensuring long-term development. Well-designed sustainable tourism products such as joint holiday packages for the region can also offer alternative livelihood opportunities in areas where current economic activities have detrimental effects on the host environment and where biodiversity and cultural assets could be a source of income, as is the case in the target countries. Integrating sustainability into the branding process means considering environmental, social, and economic aspects throughout the process of developing a holiday package. Malawi and her neighbors each have a wealth of natural and cultural tourism capital, which have the potential to attract increasing numbers of tourists, a significant and growing percentage of whom are European and North American. An initiative such as the one that we are considering would link the growing European and North American market demand for sustainable tourism products on the wealth of natural assets and the development potential of tourism sectors in Lake Malawi, one of the global 200 designated by WWF, as I said. The related activities would also help us build the capacity to market effectively sustainable products targeting European and North American markets. The project, if implemented with inputs from countries involved, would provide African regional tourism entrepreneurs with a competitive advantage by transferring know-how and establishing networks to support development and marketing of more sustainable tourism. In Malawi, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to believe that in order to transform ourselves, we must develop the habit of dreaming in color, of believing in ourselves, of shaking off negative stereotypes and projecting our positive image to the world. We have come to realize that that which was considered not possible before is in fact possible. Because in recent times, we have used bold initiatives to put an end to hunger. Once upon a time, it used to be considered a universal fact that in certain months of the year, Malawians would starve. It was accepted and established almost as a biblical truth. Certain months of the year are approaching, then it's natural to expect that Malawians will be starving. And then it would be expected that the President of the Republic would carry his begging bowl and fly from capital to capital, begging for food. And even in those Western capitals, it also came to be accepted as biblical truth that certain months of the year you could expect the President of the Republic of Malawi to knock on the door with his begging bowl. We have broken that cycle. We broke that cycle by initiating the fertilizer and other input subsidy program, which at the beginning was extremely unpopular with our cooperating partners. Because quoting economics books, they would say, no, we have to allow market forces and subsidies are bad anyway. We have come to the conclusion that you do not achieve anything by doing things the way they have always been done. We challenged that and introduced the food subsidy, the fertilizer subsidy, and as a result of that, we have been achieving bumper harvests in the past 7 or so years. And in fact, the headlines are not about Malawians starving. They are about Malawi helping some of her neighbors with food. Now, to have ended hunger is to have put smiles on the faces of ordinary people, which is a very crucial element in the notion of a warm heart. After all, people with empty stomachs will surely not produce a smile for the visitor. But what is even more important about this is not just the filling of stomachs with food. It is the psychological revolution that has occurred. The belief that it is actually possible to put an end to hunger. When you come to Malawi today, what you see is confidence written on the faces of the people. Now, I must emphasize that when I talk like this, I'm not saying that in the village that I refer to, everybody's granary is full. That's not what we are claiming, because in any village, there would be good reasons why one or two people might not harvest enough. But if more people are harvesting, it means that those who have not harvested enough surely would not starve to death. They would have access to food by buying it to their neighbors, from their neighbors at a lower price. So this establishment, ladies and gentlemen, this accomplishment has resulted in a kind of natural rebranding process, given us a new self-confidence and a belief that with just a little bit more effort, with the partnership of potential investors and cooperating partners maybe represented here, we can actually embark on creative initiatives that can make the beauty of our country and our region more meaningful to ordinary people than is the case at the moment. Who is it appreciates a Malawian sunset? It's mostly the foreign visitors. Who is it that admires the beauty of Lake Malawi and those beautiful mountains surrounding it? It's all too often the foreign visitors. It's beauty and truth. The beauty is there, but it has yet to be transformed into a truth that contributes to the lives of the ordinary people. We think it can be done. We think that with inputs from various players, including yourselves, it should be possible to make that beauty meaningful, not only to the foreign visitors. We're happy that people come admire our sunsets and rivers, but we think that the process will not be complete until the ordinary villager, the banana seller that you see as you drive from Blantyre to Lilongwe, also gets to see that the beauty surrounding her is of benefit to her and her children. So I invite you all, ladies and gentlemen, to come to the warm heart of Africa and help us translate our many-colored dream into reality. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lipenga. Let's give him another round of applause. Also, on behalf of the ICT, we would like to thank you for being able to readjust your program. I know you were supposed to come before this, but you made some accommodation to us. Audience, thanks for your participation. We'll take 2 questions because we're well into the lunch break. So we'll try to take 2 questions, 2 brief questions, and Doc, if you can help, 2 brief answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your great speech and for the invitation to visit Malawi. I've done it before, and one photo I have in my collection, there is the crowd of dozen children with 2 mothers in front of the poorhouse, and another photo which I have taken is a billboard promoting the International Population Day. And on this billboard, there is the map of Malawi, and there is a comparison how many citizens they've been within the time span of 11 years. During 11 years, the population of Malawi increased by 50%, 50. How we can improve the situation, how we can raise the standard of living in a country where during half a generation the population is growing by half, and what can be done to bring the process under control, that we will see more smiling kids and their parents in this Malawian villages, because this is also the matter of how many people are there. But I agree with you that the beauty of the country calls for basing the development, at least to an extent, on ecotourism, because the country is beautiful. But with such fast growth of population, I can't see the successful future for the country. Something must be done about that, and also this is one of the causes of, from time to time, coming hunger, the issue you addressed also. How you see it? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you want to hold, Doc, if you want to hold, let's take the second question, then possibly
yes,
they may
have
have complementary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bonsu again is my name, from Hamburg.
Just one piece of paper.
To anyone familiar with Malawi, I don't want to follow in Dr. Kolotko's footsteps, but there's another problem that's peculiar, to Malawi. We talk in tourism today. This means if you're successful, you're going to have an influx of tourists. You're going to have investments, etc., in the tourism industry to support this awaited influx. Persons need to be attended to. There must be a good health system in place. Dr. Kolotko told us about the problem of global migration. For Malawi, you have a peculiar problem in that there are more Malawian doctors outside than in the country itself. In fact, certain statistics suggest manifold. Your sector is not health, but probably as a politician, you could throw some light on what the government is doing to ensure you have a health system that will stand up squarely to this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. If you can take the two.
Okay. Well, I want to thank both of you for those, I think, very important questions, which are in some way related. The population growth is obviously unsustainable if it is allowed to go on without certain measures being taken. Now, we are not about to go the way of China and develop a one-child policy. Much as we do realize, the evidence of the population pressure has a bearing even on the beauty of the country, because as you drive in the countryside, it's evident on the hillsides as people try to eke a living out of those hillsides. So we are painfully aware of this challenge. We believe that there are ways of reversing that trend. We think that through effective civic education, it is possible to change people's outlook as an intermediate measure. As a member of parliament, I have, in the long time that I have been a member of parliament, seen changes in the attitudes of young women in the rural areas where I come from, where today it is not unusual to hear a young woman saying, I'm only going to have 2 children. I have no wish to have more than 2. And the reasons given are issues to do with freedom, to do business, for instance, but also health issues, but again, also considerations of health. So more and more women, particularly in the rural areas where the problem is much more severe, are beginning to be aware of the need to think like that. And I think that we as government can then capitalize on that. We are already doing that, developing programs for civic education that would change the mindset. I don't promise a revolution along those lines, but I think we are already making good progress. The key, though, ultimately, is education. We know there's statistics everywhere, not just in Malawi, but in other parts of Africa will show you that the more educated women are, the fewer children they tend to want to have. In fact, if you go into the cities, the more affluent families that probably would afford having 15 children are the ones that have fewer now. because of the factor of education and women wanting to develop careers in the end. So, again, the bottom line is the economy. This government has put a lot of emphasis on improving the economy. We've made some modest progress, but we still have a long way to go. We think that if we improve the economy, working with cooperating partners, but also through our own initiatives, that should surely generate the kind of resources that we need in order to fund more education. As you know, we have free primary education at the moment. It has its own pressures again. We tend to have more classrooms than we have teachers, and the schools are overcrowded. But as the economy improves, we are confident that in the end we'll be able to provide more effective education, which should also play its part in changing the mindset of people and hopefully helping to reverse the trend that you highlighted. I think the same applies to health. And again, you are right. I mean, it's depressing to know that there are more highly qualified medics overseas in the UK, Europe, and other places that come from Malawi. And when you go to Malawi, the ratio doctor to patient is so, terrible. We would love to bring them back home, but they are earning much better salaries. They have gone to the places where the grass is greener. And we do believe in freedom of movement. In the end, we can only count on patriotism, and perhaps, again, if the economy improves, we should be better. There have been an improvement. There's a policy to offer better remunerations to medical personnel than was the case before. And that has succeeded in attracting some of them to return. But the majority still are outside. We've made good progress in the health sector in programs that really have succeeded in dealing with health issues than perhaps the case was before. The construction of hospitals, but also health centers. But health education in general, including HIV/AIDS, has seen us scoring some good achievements in that area. We are a proud people. We were confident of doing certain things on our own, but we still think that for some time to come, we'll still need a helping hand from friends. So at every opportunity when I address a group like this, I do mention that, if there are people who can help in any way with that which we are already doing ourselves, we would very much appreciate that. But if you look on the internet and elsewhere on the initiatives that we have undertaken in the health sector, we'll find that, in fact, we have earned some praise in certain areas. But with regard to personnel, of course, we have our own medical school as part of the University of Malawi in Blantyre, and that's producing personnel as well. Perhaps not in the sort of dramatic figures that we would prefer, given the crisis that we have in the health sector. But something is being done, and perhaps again, as the economy improves, we will be better able to expand the activities of the University of Malawi Medical School and produce more doctors and health workers.
On this note, we would like to give Dr. Lipenga a big round of applause.